Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And today we have with us Rebecca Lee. She's a third-year PhD student in our department, and she works with Dr. Bruce and Dr. Bhattacharya. She did her undergrad in pol science and mathematics at University of Oregon, and she has been a very active grad Aggie, like actively participated in the programs to develop professional skills for grad students at TAMU. And she's also a member of the SGSA, the Graduate and Professional Student Government, doing consulting as well as on heart transplant study. So without much ado, I would like to welcome Rebecca. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome to Workflow Workshop, Organization Tools for Grad Student Research. As Neil Aldry said, I am a third-year PhD student, and I wanted to create this workshop to help those who are either starting out their research in the PhD program or are really in deep with their research and are starting to feel overwhelmed as I started to by my second year of trying to keep track of all of tasks, projects, schoolwork, etc. So let's go ahead and start. There we go. All right. So this is the general. Oh, yeah, I can do that. 1 second. I'll turn my camera on so you guys can actually see my face. There we go. Hi. Okay. So this is the general outline for today's workshop. So first, we're just going to go over some general organization tips for those who are really just absolutely lost or might just need a refresher. And then we're going to head into a Slack introduction, a Zotero introduction, and a Notion introduction. And then if we have time, I'll talk briefly about integrating Zotero and Slack into Notion. But for now, I just want to give everyone a general introduction to these three types of applications. All right. So general organization tips first. So these are ones that I have collected over my almost 3 years of being a PhD student / ones I have figured out through my many years of being in undergrad and getting 2 bachelor's degrees. So lots of trial and error, and this is kind of what I've come up with. So when we all start grad school, it seems like they tell us something general like this, like staying organized in grad school means using a calendar and ensuring that you have all your commitments and deadlines placed in the appropriate spots. Make sure you also set a reminder and an appropriate number of days ahead of the task so that you have enough time to get it done. However, they don't really tell us how to do that necessarily. Like, that's not mainly how to stay organized. It's just get the task done and, get it done on time. So I'm hoping through this, I can present to you some organizational tools and productivity tools that have really helped me figure out how to be the most organized I can be. So first, this is going to probably be a review for everyone, but time management. So use a calendar. If you don't already, please use like Google Calendar or Notion Calendar, which I will discuss later. But keep track of all meetings, classes, appointments, anything that takes up part of your time. Write it down, because I promise you, as soon as you start getting as involved as I have by your third year, you will start getting overwhelmed by how many meetings you will be having. So next tip is block time each week for projects assignments. And on the next slide, I kind of show an example of this in my calendar, actually. And then also keep track of how long you work on your assignments and projects, because it's hard to block time for your assignments and projects if you don't know how long generally they take. So kind of develop that over time. And of course, prioritize, even though you might have some projects that are easier / maybe more fun. If you have a large due date for your research that might be a little bit more challenging, but it's due sooner, make sure you work on that first instead of putting it off. And I know we all have that issue sometimes when we get further into research. So, all right. So the next slide. This is an example actually of my calendar from this week that I took this morning. as an example. So as you see, I block my time for my classes immediately. I blocked, as you can see here, my workshop. I have due dates of when my submissions are. And then after the day, as I go throughout the day, I notice, oh, I've spent this much time on my research. I go back into my calendar and I actually block it out. And what's great about Google Calendar is it will keep track of how many hours you spend on something. So then I can look back if my advisor asks, how long did I work on something? I actually have that number to tell them. So, right. And then next tip is to-do list. If you don't have a to-do list, start using one, please. It's definitely the next kind of big step. And it's what we'll talk a lot about with Notion as well today. So keep track of your assignments, projects, personal tasks in one location. And it's great to be able to click things off. It helps make you feel happy. I feel every time I get especially me, check off that I've done something. And we all have a large goal in being a PhD student, especially. Our main goal is to, defend our dissertation at the end. However, if you just put that on your to-do list, it's overwhelming, like you don't know where to start. So keep in mind when you have larger tasks, that could even be like a final project at the end of 605. You want to start breaking them down into what's called SMART goals. And if you haven't heard of SMART goals, I highly suggest taking a look at this resource I put at the bottom of this page. And it just stands for make goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. Next little bit is organize your class materials. So this is definitely a lot of trial and error I've had on my part through the years. So when you have if you like to take physical notes, I have for sure learned you can be too organized and it can make you disorganized. So start simple and then start compartmentalizing. So what I give an example of is don't have different meeting books, notebooks for like, oh, these are my advisor meeting, and then I have one for my consulting. You're going to forget it sometimes, and then you're just going to start writing in each notebook separately, and then it ends up becoming disorganized. So start large and then start compartmentalizing as you go and as you see fit. But then if you prefer to do electronic versions, these are some tips I actually learned from the library resource for the organization class I took that I have found really work. And I don't know, it just really helps, to be honest. So when you are on a computer, create one folder per project and then create a second folder. This is the one that I have finally learned after, I feel, 2 years. Create subfolders for the versions of your project because there's a potential for your collaborators to ask, hey, can we go back to a different version? We want to see and we want to compare maybe 2 models, for example. And then in each of those folders, try to add subfolders to immediately contain R code, plots, and data files. And then a really big tip is do not assume how long a project will take. For example, I thought one project I had was going to only take 3, maybe 4 months, and it is now going on 2+ years. So don't start writing file names like final analysis. Use instead ISO dates to kind of keep track, but then inside of those, make sure you include a README file, or what I do is at the top of each R code, if it's R code, just have a little section, a little blurb about what that code does. And then finally, so we're getting into now our main topic of this workshop, which is keeping research materials organized. So today I'm going to present to you 3 different tools. Some of those you may have heard of or currently use, but they're for different reasons that help you keep organized based on some of the tips I just previously gave. So Slack helps with streamlining communication for projects. Zotero is a citation management tool. It's one of the very, very many that are out there. And then finally, Notion is it helps organize long-term research projects / it kind of does a lot, but we'll get into that. I only just started using that maybe 2 months ago, but it's been on my back burner and now I am addicted to using Notion and yeah, I'm really excited to show it to you all. Okay, so first, Slack introduction. So just wondering, based on who's here in person or on Zoom, how many of you have used Slack before? Cool, awesome, okay. How many of you have like heard of Slack? Okay, I like that. So I'm glad we have like some new people who aren't as familiar with that. So if you hadn't already from the email that was sent out earlier this week, go ahead and download Slack now if you would like, or you can wait till afterwards. The links are available in the PowerPoint. So go ahead and just set it up. And then side note, if you didn't know, there is a app of Slack, so use it. It's amazing. And my advisors and I, that's all we use. We don't really email each other anymore. So you might be asking, what is Slack? So Slack is a way to organize your conversations for all of these projects into organized workspaces and channels. So a workspace is kind of your project level. And then your channels are the different tasks you might have for that project and conversations you might want to have with specific people for those tasks. Some benefits is it's centralized information. So all people, messages, files, they're all in just one place for that project. And you don't have to start searching through your emails, which is my favorite part about using Slack. And then, of course, enhanced efficiency, faster collaboration and decision-making, because we have @mention functionality for it. So I can just message my advisor really quick. Hey, are we still going to have a meeting, this week based on something else, or I need clarification on a research project? He'll get a notification and he can immediately message me as if he's just texting me. So I was able to convince my advisors within the first 6 months of working with them that we need to adopt Slack, and now they use it for their other advisees as well. So the free version is absolutely great. It does everything, honestly, I've noticed our group needs. However, the only downside to it is you can only look back the last 30 days in conversations. But there is a lot of free trials that pop up. I think we're on like the 3rd or 4th trial for ours. So use those as they come up. Otherwise, Texas A&M, as of last year, does have a pro version if you sign up using your @tamu.edu account. The only difference is you have to put your project instead of into a workspace, which we'll get to about what that is, but you have to turn it into a channel instead. It's still kind of rocky, but they are getting better at getting back to people with issues. So that is an option if you want to take that route instead. So if you've already downloaded Slack, hopefully you also created your account and just verify, as you normally would. But I just really wanted to clarify, use your @tamu.edu account. It's a lot easier. So when you first start Slack, you'll be given this page. So we're going to actually kind of walk through the basic steps of how to create a workspace in Slack, just in case you've never used it before. And also, this is a great tool for if you want to send it to your advisors after you've convinced them to use it. This would also help walk them through kind of how to set things up. So setting up your first workspace, you only need these 4 things. So just name your workspace. So just, your name, research, or whatever group project you might be working on. Then you just choose your name. This is where it wasn't as clear, but whatever you choose in this field is actually going to be the thing people in your group are going to use for @mentioning. Then you can skip steps 3 and 4, which is add other members and what your team is working on currently. Step 4 is a little confusing when I first set it up because it's not really clear why they want to know this. But all it is it's creating these channels, which you can think of as subfolders for your conversations for your big project. So, and then this just kind of goes through. You will start with 2 channels, general and random. In my case, I only really use the general channel, but random's supposed to be more laid back and conversational with whoever is in your group. All right, so at that point, you are literally all set to start using Slack once you add people. Add coworkers is just right under direct messages. You just send them the email and then add channels. And if you want to add a new workspace, let's say you have a group project that you want to do for like another class instead of your research, you can just click on like for here where I have WP, and it will pop up and say add new workspace. And you just go through the same steps again. Right. So yeah, after that, you can begin sending messages to your team, sharing files, meeting notes, inline code, which is amazing. Copy and paste your R code, and you can just send it immediately to them. And of course, just see what works for your team. Every team is different. Some people like to really compartmentalize conversations based on projects or discussions on paper writing. So yeah. Next, Zotero. So how many of you use Zotero? Yeah, we got one. I like that. So how many of you have heard of Zotero? Yeah. Well, Zotero, I didn't know about this until my first year of my PhD. I ended up taking a webinar through the library about this, and I was into using Mendeley for my undergrad, and then I learned about Zotero, and I have not looked back since. So hopefully I can convince most of you to switch to Zotero today. Yeah, most people use like Mendeley like a lot more, but I'll show you why I think Zotero is superior. So if you didn't download, please download and install. Just when you do go to that page, ignore the right-hand side. You just want to download Zotero for whatever system you're on. Zotero connector is already going to be downloaded once you download Zotero. So next, turn on browser extension. This was not in the email we had sent earlier this week, but if you're on Safari for Mac, I have it up here how to do it. So just follow the steps on the left here. So just open Safari, click on Safari in your menu bar, go to settings, and this is a screenshot of what settings looks like, just in case you're not sure if you're in the right spot. And all you're going to do is click on the Zotero connector, the little box, and it will enable it. And what this does is absolutely incredible. It is able to recognize your papers, articles, and anything else you are actually browsing. And it will, you can click on it and it will save whatever you're looking at directly into your library, into Zotero. So I'll go a little bit more into the details on that in a couple slides. So Zotero, if you're not familiar with citation management tools, it's basically your personal research assistant. So it helps collect, organize, annotate, cite, and share your research. And it's also open source, which I was not aware of until I think like a week or two ago. So yeah. So what can Zotero do? As I said, it can help save your papers, articles, web pages, ebooks, etc. into your Zotero app. And this is what I personally love, is just how easy it is to view PDFs, because usually I would find it, download it directly to my laptop, and then they would slowly get lost in the plethora of folders. So this is a nice way to just have everything in one spot when it is related to your resources for research. So organizing, it also helps organize your research into collections, and you can tag them with keywords. So if you're looking for something and like, let's say Bayesian, you can tag it with Bayesian, and you'll be able to search that later, and it'll pull up all of your papers that are related to Bayesian. A great thing with this is when you create your references and bibliographies, it supports over 10,000 citation styles, which is honestly incredible. So any journals or papers you might want to submit to, it has, I think, basically every single one you could potentially submit to, and it already has the citation ready to go. And you can sync across your devices and share your Zotero library. And the great thing is it's free. I only chose things where the free version is great, because I know a lot of us are poor grad students. So, all right. So once you download it and open up Zotero, this is what your screen should look like. It's a little overwhelming at first just because there's not a lot going on and it's confusing what buttons to press to do what. So I'm going to walk through the basics, which are how to add collections, how to add different papers, and then finally how to export your bibliography. So in order to create a new collection, you're just going to click on the add folder button. It is literally just what you think it is. It's a folder to store like, okay, I have one for research, or I have one for, let's say right now, Stat 605 papers that we're discussing. So just trying to keep it separate is honestly the key to this as well. All right. So there are a couple ways to add papers. The main way, which I absolutely love, is through the browser extension. And if you don't have Safari, it's totally okay. They do support other web browsers. They have a list on their website. If you go back to that initial download page, they say which supported browsers they have for this extension. And they walk you through also how to turn it on for different browsers. So let's just say I'm browsing, let's say Project Euclid here. And what happens is once you turn on your browser extension, you'll see something like a blue little paper or a blue like PDF symbol. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can go back to that. Are you, yeah, you're on Safari. So we just had a question here about how to turn on the browser extension again. So yeah, you'll go to Safari, just open one up, go up to the very top where it says like Safari in your menu bar. And then there's an option for settings. Yeah, and then, yeah, I know it's like a little hidden. And then, yeah, once you have downloaded Zotero, it should have this already ready to go. All right, so once that happens and Zotero is able to recognize that there is something it can save, it will light up blue. And what's great is you don't actually have to be on the actual PDF page of it, like downloaded. You can actually just be on the page where it says like, here's, you know, this paper from this journal, etc. It will recognize that you want the paper and nothing else. So it's quite incredible and the fastest way to add papers, in my opinion. So the next way to add papers is manually through ID. So in order to do that, you'll click this little wand. And if you have the ISBN or DOI, et cetera, any ID, just copy and paste it right into here and it will be able to recognize that paper and it will find the most updated version and any extra resources that might be associated with that paper. That took me a little bit to find out that it actually does that part, which I thought was really nice. So this is actually the method I use the most of when I first started using Zotero because I didn't realize how great the browser extension actually was. So, and also this might work. This is also another option if for some reason Zotero is not able to, you know, find the paper through the browser extension for whatever reason. It's quite rare, I've noticed, but once in a while it does happen. And then finally, the last way to add papers is manually through a local copy. There's two ways to do this. Either you can click the green plus sign. This will create a blank row in your library where you can start filling in things like, you know, the title, authors, etc. And then you can upload your local copy. But I suggest doing this method, which is you click the paperclip option and choose attach stored copy of file. And then it will already just have it linked and you won't have to search in the plethora of things you have to fill out manually, where to actually attach that file. So yeah, the only downside to this method is if you don't feel like adding everything in. Yeah. Oh yeah, sometimes, yeah. That's right. Yeah. So I'll add that in, actually. That's a good point. Yeah, so there is a way to actually do it non-manually once you do the manual step. So usually when I do the manual step, I just put in the title and then the authors, and then if I actually use the file later, I come back and then I fill out more. But yeah, that is a great point. Thank you, Isaac. Let's see. Next is how to create the bibliography from the collection. This was not as clear because, as you will see on the next slide, there are a lot of options when you're ready to export. So this is actually my Zotero currently for 605, based on papers that are given to us in class. And I've been trying to keep up with how many papers are mentioned, and it's really nice. All you have to do, Google it, use the Zotero extension, and it will immediately, I can click, I have a collection for Stat 605, and it puts it right in. And also pointing out on the side here, these are all copies of the papers themselves. So I don't have to go into my local files. It's just all right here. All right, so step one, it's really nice and simple, but you're going to want to click on Export Collection after you right-click on the collection you want to create a bibliography for. Do not click Create Bibliography from Collection. That is misleading. If you want to do a .bib file for Overleaf. So this is just what will pop up next. This should be the default for everyone when you do it. This is the way I have done it so far for my research and for papers I've written. But you'll just choose BibTeX as a format. There's lots of formats you can choose. Some people choose .rtf if they're going to use something like BibDesk to mediate, but there's no real reason to use it anymore if you go this route. And then you'll just want to click Export Notes, and then, yeah, just keep the Unicode UTF-8 as the default, and you'll be able to download your .bib file into whatever section of your computer you want and upload this file directly into your Overleaf and use it as you normally would a .bib file in Overleaf. Yeah.
Like, we can link it with Overleaf.
Yeah.
Is there also something similar in Zotero?
Oh, that's a good question. I think they were working on it. I'm not sure though. Yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah, Isaac has confirmed they do it like that. I'm old school and I will straight up just like upload the file directly. So yeah, depends on how connected you want things to be, but yeah. All right, so that's literally all you need to know for basics of using Zotero. My favorite part has honestly just been it's free, and I found Mendeley when I used it in undergrad to be a little bit more like a lot more going on, and so this kind of gave me the flow that I like when I'm looking at PDFs. So yeah, you can add notes, comments to your PDFs directly. What's also really nice about Zotero is they have a section for publications. So once you become published, you can actually have a My Publications feature, and it's in the left sidebar, as you might see when you first open it up. And you can just start sharing your publications directly that way with anybody else. So yeah. All right, so now for the fun part. So Notion. How many have heard of Notion or used Notion? Okay, so yeah, I'm not surprised because it is kind of a hidden gem, honestly, of productivity tools. And to clarify, I have tried probably 7 to 10 productivity tools in my time in grad school and in undergrad. This by far is the best one. So if you haven't, please download Notion for desktop. You can just use it directly through the browser, but I suggest the desktop is the best way to go. But I was actually introduced to this by another grad student I saw on social media, and I was fascinated by everything they were able to do with it. So, of course, again, set up an account. The only thing is they will ask you, how are you going to use Notion? It's fine to pick any of those options. It just determines what templates and pages you start out with. But it really does not matter. Right. So what is Notion? It's really hard to describe, and as Alexander has brought up when I told him about this, he said it's kind of like an 18-in-1 shampoo sort of thing, where it can do a lot, but its main goal is still like with shampoo to clean, but with Notion, it's to organize still. So people manage projects, and I have seen people actually run entire companies through Notion. It's absolutely incredible. So, but why would we use it for research, since that's the topic of this workshop? So you can organize tasks, notes, files, due dates, and everything can be in a single location. And they also have another app which links directly to your Notion as well, called Notion Calendar. And Notion Calendar can be linked to your Google Calendar. So Notion Calendar can take all of your events from Google Calendar and bring them in, and it's awesome. I'll show you during the demonstration some of this. So it's also incredibly customizable. So if you're like me and you like to be a little bit more creative and a little bit more artsy, this kind of takes the place, but you don't have to know HTML or CSS or anything to actually create basically web pages for yourself. So another thing that I mentioned before, it does connect to Zotero and Slack, and many more, which I will also mention. And great thing, it's free. They do have a paid version. I believe it's only like around $3 to $4 a month, but I have not seen a need to actually use the paid version yet. A big benefit to the paid version is you can just store more files per entry, and you also get, I believe it's almost unlimited AI functionality as well. But on the free version, you get 10 AI, hard to describe. I'll show it, but you get like 10 chances to use AI to help write things and do things for you. So, all right, so now we're going to switch gears a little bit. The rest of the slides on here are meant for people who kind of want to come back and just look at some of the basics that I'm now going to walk you through. So give me 1 second and I will reshare my screen and bring up Notion. All right, so hopefully you can all see this page. So I am showing you currently what my Notion looks like. It's going to look a lot different than yours if you've just started out, but I am going to walk you through the steps of how to create your own page to help keep track of either your to-do list or your research projects, things like that. And then I'll show you some of the stuff you can create with this as well. So there's 2 ways to start making your own page. The first way is going up here to new page. You'll be given something like this. It's on private page because I have not invited anyone else to my kind of Notion area. You can name it whatever you want. So for now, we can just say first page. Don't click return if you're on a Mac. Just wait, just type it out, and then you're going to come down to templates. I have learned it is a lot easier to start with templates than it is to try to learn how to build your own page from scratch. I just started this past week trying to learn about all these building blocks they have, and just starting out, and especially because we're in the middle of a term, hold off on trying to build your own page until maybe a break or something. So we're going to go to templates, and it will open up this sort of page for you. I believe the default it will take you to is work, but you have options for templates that are related to work, school, personal, projects, wiki, and docs. So just to begin, since this is new to basically every person here, we are going to click on projects and tasks to begin with on the left-hand side. And then once you do that, you'll have a section that says Get Template down at the bottom. And all you're going to do is click that. And it will take you back to your main page. So I now have a tasks and a projects on the left-hand side. Ignore these ones, the blue and the pink projects, because those are ones I've already worked through and changed based on my preferences. So, any questions so far? I know there's a lot going on in Notion. It took me, I think, a good month to finally figure out how things like flow and work and what works for me. And everyone's going to definitely be different. There are 1,000 templates. You can actually make templates yourself, post them to the Notion community, and people can use them. People actually create businesses off of making templates for extra money. So might be like a good little side gig if you start really enjoying doing this. So we have tasks and projects. Go ahead and click the projects one, because as I learned, you have to start with the projects first and then the tasks as it's built in right now as a template. So this is what's crazy. Basically, every single thing you see on this page here is customizable. You can add a cover. You can change the cover. They have galleries. They actually have from the Met, they have patterns. They also have a NASA archive. You can search the web and it will immediately link it in. And what they do when you first download a template, which might seem a little weird, is they have a lot of examples. They do this because some of them actually give you like sample project. And this is how I learned, was they show how a project would look in this sort of setup for this template. But since we're all starting out with this, we're going to actually delete most of this and then kind of build it up. So first, we're going to start off with, let's pick this one, let's say, and we're going to now rename this project. Let's just say this is going to be our research. Just keep everything else as is right now, and then go down to where we have this little apple, and we're actually going to click the little 6 dots. This is what took me the longest, was figuring out where the delete button was for Notion. But if you go over here, we can just delete, and down here in progress, we can just delete here. So now all you should see is a research project, maybe some other things, but these are the attributes or the properties. So just the columns of this database that is this template. What's also really nice, I'll show you on my end after I get through walking through a basic setup of this, is kind of other things you can add and customize to make it what you want. So what's really cool is they have built-in tools like priority. Oh, if I want to, this is actually a high priority for me, etc. It keeps track of completion. Now, this is where we get into creating tasks for the project. So this tool right here is actually linked to your tasks page over here. So right now they give you 2 examples of tasks. Like write project proposal, schedule kickoff meeting. It's keeping track of how many done statuses you have, and it will show you where you're at in your project. So let's just delete one of these right now. And actually let's delete both, because that's also a little weird, because when you delete everything, you might wonder where your project has now gone. But it is in the hidden groups. So if you just hit hidden groups, it will pop back out. And when you're ready to add a task, how I have done it is I think of the big tasks that I have for my research. So let's say I have tasks related to meetings every week. So we can just create a meetings tab. And if you click the little toggle here, you can create sub items. So any task you might have related to your meetings task can now be added here. So let's say you have to send out meeting notes this week. And you can also base it on, oh, this is in progress. You can assign people to it. So if you start deciding you want to make it more social, because people use this Notion actually for student organizations, which is really kind of great. You can have due dates, priority, and then summary. What's really cool about summary is when you have a bunch of tasks And maybe let's say your advisors wants to know, hey, what have you been working on this week? You can actually just go to your meetings project here, click summary for AI. It will figure out all of the tasks you have done and just write a short little blurb for you in a second about what tasks you have now completed. So it's nice in that sense, but if you are like me and you like to have a lot of different columns, you can come over to this top row here and click the add button. You'll notice there's a lot of add buttons around because you can add so much. So here's just examples of some things you can add into your table. So this kind of gets into some of the connections you can make with Notion. You can connect this to GitHub, any pull requests you have. It can count up how many pull requests. It can, determine the average number of pull requests in a month. You can just get it all in one space. But you can add tons of things like files and media. I usually like to have a files and media column. And based on if you have a part of your project that's done, but you want to share out that file, but you're worried if you're in the middle of a meeting, you might panic and forget where you saved a file, but hopefully not. You can go ahead and just keep it all in Notion. And that's kind of the main point of Notion, is to just combine all of your organizational tools into one spot. So that's kind of a little bit about how to just do like projects, tasks in that sense. But my best advice for people getting started with Notion is to just play around. I spent probably the first 2 days of when I first decided to download Notion just playing around. Delete things, decide how you can move things. Like you can actually click and drag almost everything on these pages. So that's kind of how to help get you started on just like projects, tasks, sort of thing like that. But any questions so far about kind of Notion in general? Yes.
Can you go through like an example of like how you actually use Notion right now
Mhm.
for your own stuff? That's like,
Yeah.
it's helpful to have.
Yeah.
each versions.
So I have, I think I have 4 templates I have downloaded and now use on a daily basis. So I'll kind of show you how I've set mine up. So in my projects page, I have a section for planning. So as you can see here, I had a workshop presentation that was in my planning stages. And if you click over here on open, it will show you all of the tasks that I had created under my project already and kind of give you an idea, and you can immediately open it up and it will send you to back to your tasks. I have in progress. So I have multiple things I am a part of right now that I have multiple tasks I need to complete basically each week. And so this is kind of how I've set mine up. But I know there's people who actually, like when you do some of these categories like priority, you can create, there is code behind all of this. I have not gotten into that fully yet because that is definitely like a summer project sort of thing. But you can create equations so that, let's say, if the due date is within, 6 days of completion, my priority channel would now turn to high, things like that. So right now, I just have it manually where I set what my priority is. So like example, this is my task page. All of the different types of projects I'm going to be starting to work on. And if I go down to, let's say, let me think of a good one. Yeah, so my workshop presentation, I had finished PowerPoint as I am showing you today as my task. And then I had my subtasks. But what's great is when you hit status, and if I had changed this for right now to done, and I click the sub ones to done, it will actually archive those tasks so you don't have to see them again if you don't want to. But you can change that to always seeing the archive or not. Some other great ones. This is the one I got most into within the last month is you can create your own student dashboard. So I'll show you kind of how you can get these type of templates too. It's super easy. It's just like getting your tasks and projects, but you're able to basically customize your own Canvas page to whatever you like. And what I have done is, so this is actually a default. None of this I actually created myself, really, besides like renaming things and maybe adding 1 or 2 attributes. This is all baseline what you get from the template. So here is actually connected to my Notion calendar, which I can show as well. Actually, I think, yeah. So here's what Notion calendar looks like. It's a separate app that you download. It's still from the Notion webpage, but it just shows my calendar view from Google Calendar as is, plus what I had created inside my Notion calendar set. So inside my like Rebecca's workshop or Rebecca's student I forgot the word I was looking for right there. Dashboard, that was the word. So inside Rebecca's student dashboard, when I create like a new assignment here, I can put in what is my due date. And when I do that and name it, it will then add that plus the course. It will link to the course. It just adds it directly into my Notion calendar then. So if your professor doesn't like to use Canvas and you personally don't like to use Canvas, this is kind of a separate way of having the same functionality, but without having the awfulness of actually using Canvas. Yeah.
But is there a way to set alerts for assignments as well?
Yes, so that's what's also great. You can set alerts for whatever you're doing. So let me, oh, and that's also the great thing. I'm not sure if you can see, but up in the menu bar of my computer right now is actually a little Notion tab. And when you are currently, okay, yeah, so on your end, you should see like a little N at the top when you download the calendar. And while you're in a meeting or something like that, it will actually count down also the time you have left. So if you're wondering how much time do I left in a meeting, hopefully you're not like looking at your clock constantly. Or if you're trying to figure out, oh, wait, how much time do I have? It will show up, I think within like whatever's next on your schedule that day, it will tell you, oh, you have 20 minutes until this meeting begins. But you can, it still lets you do the whole, let's see, like set a reminder. So, see, I don't think I set reminders for these ones just yet, which goes against the advice I'm giving everyone. But you can add properties for setting reminders directly. But yeah, I do it sometimes through here, but if you set a reminder in your Google Calendar, it will actually recognize that in the Notion calendar too. So, yeah.
I think
Yes, yeah, in tasks,
tasks.
yes. Yeah. Yes, yeah, with the due date, yeah, you can come down here, like choose what day it's due and a remind. Or yeah, it's under the date attribute, yeah. So let me think, let me show you a little bit more about some templates just to kind of get you like feeling what might interest you and what you might want to create. Oh, actually, let me show you the other idea I had. So I just created one 2 weeks ago, frequently visited websites. I got tired of having 1,000 tabs open on my computer. So I created a kind of area where I tag what type of website it is. So I like to look at a lot of the distribution Wikipedia sites sometimes to remind myself about what the mean or, you know, standard deviation might be for something related to these. And all I did was create a tag for statistics or distribution. And I created a property just to link me directly to the Wikipedia site. So now I don't have 8,000 tabs open. I don't have to keep typing. I can just come here, click a couple buttons, and I'm already at the website. So let me show you some more templates in the last little bit we have. So if you liked the student dashboard that I just showed, you can go to templates to school. And the one I use is Eslow's student dashboard. Basically all of these on here are free. If you go to more templates, then you kind of see what even more templates are available, which is absolutely mind-blowing how many people have made already. But what you saw from my student dashboard, this is actually the base that is given to you. So they also give you a built-in Pomodoro technique clock. And what's nice is a lot of people who create these templates do a walkthrough video of how to use it and how things connect. So if it gets a little complicated, there's always usually a tutorial for these things. In the last little bit, I do want to show you a little bit about Notero. So this page is actually my Zotero page that I showed you in Zotero. This is my 605 collection, and it has now synced with my Notion page here. So it has taken the full citation. I have the URL, so if I want to immediately go to that PDF again, I can just do that. And what's great about this is it's a way to also kind of extend your Zotero functionality. So I can, oh, I need to revisit this one at some point, and you can create more attributes and for your columns and start, putting in notes, things like that. You can have collections of your, so as the same as Zotero, it syncs your collections. You can sync collections differently. Books, lit review. So here's where you can, it's already built in. You can write in the problem or purpose, any samples or methods. And it's just a great way to keep track of all of the research and all of the papers that we have to read during our time as PhD students. So I do want to show kind of how I was able to set up Notero. I could have honestly given an entire workshop on just how to do it because it does take a little bit of time since sadly Notero is not immediately available for connecting, but I can, let me actually just show really quick how, what other types of apps, because that is the last thing I did want to show, is what apps are available. So if you are, creating your own web page or site for here, you can actually come down and it gives you the list if you want to know what different types of embedding you can do. So these ones are already built in. Notion recognizes it. All you have to do is sign in and you are literally good to go. So connect to Google Maps if you want to have a embedded, map of something like on your web page, you can have that there. GitHub, there are some other really, really cool ones. You can connect to your Google Drive folders. So you can just immediately grab something from Google Drive. It's already in one spot. Slack, you can send messages for Slack through Notion. It's just absolutely incredible. Yeah, Zoom, you can link with Zoom. So it kind of does everything you would want a functioning website to do, but without having to do necessarily the coding aspect. So it's a nice user-friendly method, but let me go ahead and go back to my PowerPoint really quick to show the last part. So give me 1 second. But yeah, I could spend an entire workshop just like going through Notion because of how much it can do. And I'm still learning things, but I just want to kind of get everyone started with what it can be. So yeah, I'll just keep it on this for right now since we're almost done. So how you actually integrate it is it's a plugin that is written by someone on GitHub called Notero. I do have the link of the latest one here. I did just use it 2 days ago because I was really interested in learning how it worked for today's workshop. In order to integrate the two tools, I use the following two resources. The walkthrough blog is a little out of date for Notion. It's only like 2 buttons don't exist anymore. But if you use the walkthrough blog first, it kind of helps explain how to actually use the GitHub walkthrough I found. So using a little bit back and forth, I was able to integrate it within, I think, 20 to 30 minutes. And yeah, once you figure it out, it's great, but I'd be happy to help anybody who's interested in connecting the two. So finally, yeah, I also have just some tips on best way to use Notion, and I did link to the New to Notion from their Notion page. It's amazing tutorials if you want to watch videos, more videos, or just kind of learn more about the incredible functionality of this. So I wanted to say thank you to Neil Audrey for helping set this up, as he always does. And a special thanks to Alex, because he was my guinea pig and helped me get a lot of the screenshots I needed, since I wanted the basic setup, and mine for all 3 things had already been fully set up. So, all right, thank you all.